Good evening and welcome, ladies, to another Mindful Money Moment. Thank you so much for taking an opportunity to come and join me today as we're talking about self-sufficiency. So, self sufficiency, as we define it, is the quality or condition of being self reliant. Being able to, not have to ask anyone permission per se. And from our perspective, of course, here on Mindful Money Moment, we're going to talk about how you're able to be self-sufficient on the financial side of things, as well as on, building up your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, and your physical, including the other four areas of mindset. But making sure that we're focusing in on what you can do and how you can do it financially in order to make some progress. I'm also going to have two guests this evening who are going to share some amazing, wonderful information with us on that mindset side about how we're able to overcome some of the challenges that we have with self-sufficiency. One of the key words that comes up for me is codependency. And that's a challenge for women who are transitioning into, an independent lifestyle. Maybe you've been through a divorce or you have lost your husband in death. Maybe you have been a single woman for a long time and just want to be able to manage your money better. And so that's what we're here for, to give you that encouragement and that guidance that you need. I am Kivette Minor-Kane, your financial liberation expert, guiding you on your journey to self-sufficiency by encouraging you and teaching you how to transform your mindset in order to transform your money management. And so I'm with Mari Moore Life LLC. Of course, you know that you can always go to Mari Moore Life online at www.marimorelife.com. We've got seminars and workshops and books there. We've got a free ebook that you can download to get started on your journey if you have not started yet, or you can use that journal as the next step on your journey to self-sufficiency if you've already gotten started, but you feel like you need a little more direction. And then once you complete that journal, feel free to reach out. We've got a free clarity connection where you are able to schedule time with a personal financial advisor, namely myself. But there are other advisors that I will have on the platform available for you, so that you're able to get that one-on-one guidance from someone that's absolutely going to take your best interest to heart. And so I thank you so much again for tuning in today and for joining me. So I've got two guests with me. I have Jessica Moloney, who is our empowerment coach, and she's also a mental health specialist. And so Jessica is joining us and she's going to share some information with us about the process that we can go through in order to gain self-sufficiency. So Jessica is a psychotherapist, a coach, a speaker, and an author. As a therapist, she currently specializes in treating depression, anxiety, and relationship issues. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about, ladies. As we move forward in our healing process, making sure that we are clear in understanding what the next steps look like for us. What are not just the next steps, but what are the best steps? And so being able to sift through this information and understand, what are your options that are available to you will assist you in making those best decisions for you and for your family and for moving forward with your life. And so I thank you again for taking this moment to be with me. I just want to do an exercise before we bring our guests in. Let's breathe in for a moment. Breathing in our peace and exhaling any anxiety that we may feel, our challenges from the day. We're going to just shake it off and let it go, because we're going to have some talk time. Hey sis, check in. Come on and be with us for a few minutes. Grab your wine, grab your coffee, grab your tea, whatever you need to just kind of sit back. Make sure you've got a notepad and an ink pencil so you can take some notes and be able to journal your way to progress. Okay. All right. So we've got Jessica Moloney that's going to join us in just a moment. We also have here with us Kelia, and Kelia is a music, media, and entertainment professional. She's been in the music industry for the last 4 years, And starting out as a hip hop nightclub manager, building the brand from scratch and working with the music industry professionals on different events, hosting private parties, and she's proven to deliver the best when it comes to growing a successful brand in music, whether it's an artist development in the studio or any other media related project or event. And that's where self-sufficiency comes in. So we'll talk a little bit about what she does and how she's able to gain her self-sufficiency and what you can do in order to make sure that you're taking those steps to gain self-sufficiency in your own right. Okay. So thank you very much for joining me, ladies. I'm going to bring you onto the stage. And here's Jessica. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you for having me. I'm so
Hey.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, Kelly, for being here to share some information with us. So we're going to start talking first with you, Jessica, about the mental health and empowerment side of this mindfulness that we need to have. You know, of course, you saw I do some exercises, and I've got a whole workshop built around how we're able to build ourselves up, you know, through doing some of the simple steps. You know, my ladies know to have a journal. You know, got to have your notebook and your notepad to check in so that you're able to kind of take notes. Anything that resonates with you, write it out. You know, that way you will remember, you won't forget, you know, what those points were that stood out to you. But then also being able to go back and do your journaling will help them to work through their healing process. And so first question for you is, what would you recommend in terms of those 3 steps when a woman is, you know, going in through a transitional period in her life? How can she maintain the empowerment that she needs or feel like she's got her power? Because oftentimes women will give our power away, you know, unfortunately, in our relationships, and on the job. You know, we are trained to be submissive, and we're trained to make ourselves secondary, you know, to put everyone else first. But here we talk about self-love and self-care. And so what are the things that you recommend to any woman who, you know, comes to you for coaching or counseling to be able to start on that pathway to empowerment?
That's a wonderful question. And it's like the way you were speaking, you know, like that was me for most of my life, you know, like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know like what kind of power I had. I didn't have power, you know, let alone to be empowered, you know? So I think, you know, like you said, like women are taught this in some way. We've absorbed this, you know, and we go through our life kind of becoming, well, I did, becoming what I thought other people wanted me to be so that I could be accepted, I could be well liked. Yeah. You know, and it wasn't until I hit my moment of feeling very broken that I realized that like, if anybody was going to bring me back up, I was going to have to do it. You know, so I think the biggest thing is to face your fear. You know, this idea of our comfort zone, it's not necessarily a place that is comfortable. It is a place that is familiar because our brain likes familiar things. We're drawn to.
Say that again. So our comfort zone is what?
It's not comfortable. It's familiar. Our brain is drawn to familiarity. It's like, I know this. I know how to survive in this. It could be chaos. It could be dirty. It could be wild. But I know how to operate like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We're drawn to it until we reprogram that. You know, and in order to get out of it, we have to step outside. And that's scary because we don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the more you can show yourself what you're capable of. The more you can show yourself that it's not as scary as we think. And like I always say, like, if you're scared, we're going to do it scared. We still do it.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a handful. He said, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And like, it's true, you know, stepping out of the comfort zone, facing the fears and really getting to know you. Like the question, like, who are you? Every time I ask that, people are like, oh, what? I don't know. It's uncomfortable, right? Who are you? Loaded question. You know, getting to know your values, and that helps you establish boundaries. You know, and like I had a client ask me the other day, she goes, well, I don't know, like that's like people are gonna think I'm being mean. I'm like, no. Boundaries are not being mean. Boundaries are here to protect me and you. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. So you talked about a couple of different things that are actually very key points. And I love that about comfort not being our comfort zone, not being comfortable, but being familiar. That is dead on. That is like, the hammer hitting the nail right on the head,
Mhm.
because it's that familiarity that makes it seem comfortable,
Mhm.
even though it may be uncomfortable. If we had been in a more conducive environment, then it would have been uncomfortable for us to get to the place that we were. And it probably was uncomfortable initially. It's just that we got so used to it. That's why I tell people, our what's normal is not necessarily normal. It's what's familiar to us, and we
For
can
sure.
change the norm. We can shift the norm. And we've seen that over the last year, that our
Mm.
norm has shifted drastically. So
Mhm.
absolutely. So taking responsibility, and my ladies have heard that quite a bit because we talk about female rescue fantasies on Mindful Money Moment, and making sure that we are being conscious of them and letting them go, because no
Mhm.
one is coming. That's it. No one is coming. And so we have to take responsibility for where we are in our lives, how we got there, as well as the decisions that it's going to take for us to move on to the next stage. And so you talking here about our comfort zone. So then that makes moving from that comfort zone, being uncomfortable, it's like, okay, so that's not such a big deal. Because now all we're doing is we're refamiliarizing ourselves. Is
Mm.
that accurate?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a scary thing. I like, just that perspective, right? Which is what it is. It's a shift. That I just need
Mm-hmm.
to refamiliarize myself with things that I want or deserve, and being
Mm-hmm.
able to identify those, of course.
Absolutely.
That's always
Absolutely.
a little bit challenging.
I love that. Absolutely. So we've got some really good steps there for the ladies to take in. And I'm going to switch over to Kelly. And we're going to talk a little bit, Kelly, about what you do in the music industry. And how you are able to work with your clients. I want to get into a little later on. We're going to talk about, what are some steps in order for these women, because many of them are business owners. And women are the number one growing group of business owners in the marketplace.
And I love it.
We would opt to have a business before we go to get a job.
Yeah.
Mainly because we need the time freedom to manage our families, but we need the additional income for the same purpose, to manage our families.
Yeah.
And so being able to do that on our own schedule, in our own way, finding something that we love to do. And I know these ladies love to sing. They sing in the shower, they sing while they're cooking.
Music, heals your soul. Go for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it does. Music is healing for us,
Mhm.
and so what are some of the
God knows I can't sing, sorry. But I still sing anyway.
well, it doesn't matter if you the thing is, the song comes from your heart.
Right.
Nobody else has to hear it.
Exactly. No one hears
But
it anyway. It's like while I'm cleaning or washing the dishes or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so we have that song in our heart. So what have you seen that has been an encouraging note for women in the music industry? I know, there's some ideas that people have about the music industry. I know that for myself personally, I've seen that women have often been objectified in the music industry and different things like that. Have you been able to see anything different, or maybe some insider tips on how you can position yourself in order to be able to, really be taken seriously as an artist, and then to position yourself in a way so that you're able to create that financial self-sufficiency through your creative works?
I think, women have always been looked at as maybe not as smart or not as brilliant or not as, good to lead something or some companies and all that. I've noticed that with myself when I first started. People were always testing me, testing my abilities and how good I am. And it was always such a big challenge for me. And at some stage, I was really almost depressed because I just felt like people weren't taking me serious. But I feel like with time, your actions speak for themselves. And if you just kind of stay focused and keep doing what you're doing, and you know you're good at it, and you keep, building your brand, and you don't worry about other people or what they're saying or what they're thinking, with time, people are going to say, oh, like, she's serious, she's doing all these things, and they're going to start looking up to you, So you just have to get past that stage where it feels scary, because there's always going to be someone trying to undermine you, trying to tell you you're not good enough, you can't do this or you can't do that. So you just have to not care about all those things and just say, this is what I want to do and what I want to prove and do for myself. And then other people will see it. And you will also attract people that are serious, you'll attract people that see you for you, and they'll see the realness in you, the hard work in you, the passion in you. So those are the people that you'll keep in your corner, and, that family will eventually grow and the brand will become bigger and better.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And that's true. Being able to stick around and doing something. I always encourage, new business owners or new agents who I work with in the financial field to make that initial commitment to be here a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
If you can stick in for 12 months, that first year, which is the most difficult in anything. I think, Jessica, you would agree that, most statistics from counselors and from therapists would say that the first 12 months of marriage is the most difficult as well. That goes for any commitment. But if you can stick around for that first year, then you can at least give yourself an opportunity to identify what are the challenges and possibly how to overcome them before giving up. And it wouldn't be giving up. I look at it at that point in time as making a decision to kind of go in a different direction.
And I always say as well that whatever you put out in the universe, it has to come back at some stage. So even when you don't see the results now, just know one day that energy will all come together and come back to you and manifest, into your business, into your life, into your personal life, your friendships. The first 12 months of running the nightclub was pretty hard. At some stage we even lost money than made anything. It was an effort where no one was getting paid. It was just really hard. And then it got to the stage where we were booked ahead of time for months ahead,
So you mean you didn't open this business and they all came flooding through the door
no.
like a millionaire in 5 months?
No way. It was first 12 months. Because, music has always been my passion. And I always wanted to do events, because every time I go out, somehow I'm always like, oh, I would do it this way, or I guess they should do it that way. It will be better. I'm always kind of like thinking, how would I do it and what would it be better? Because, I'm that kind of person. So I really wanted to know how it would be to do an event. So somehow God kind of put in, someone in my life, like a friend of mine who was working at a nightclub as a DJ, and this person got offered a space downstairs to just basically say, by the club owner, you can do whatever you want with this space, because it's not making money now anyways. And he said to me, he's been doing DJing for such a long time, but he's never taken that big of a responsibility. He could see my passion as well. So he was like, do you want to join the team? And it was just the two of us at the beginning. It took us about a year and a half to find the right team, people that are really serious. We went through a lot of challenges, sometimes working even with a couple of celebrities is not easy, there's a lot of demands and certain ways to deal with people as well. So we've been through a lot of challenges, but it has made us so much stronger and better in terms of running business and creating even private events and working with really big names in the industry. It just really makes you grow. And then as a woman, you feel more empowered, you feel stronger, you feel accomplished, and that actually reflects on you in your daily life as well.
Absolutely. That level of confidence from being able to overcome those challenges. But I said that initially, jokingly that, you're not a millionaire in 5 months, because we see, so much of the promotion of people, oh, you do this big business and, the hype is that you're going to be an overnight success. So if you're not making, 5 figures a week in your first month, then you're doing something wrong, or if you're not millionaire after your first, couple of months, then what are you doing? You're not working hard enough. You got to stay up, be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then, go to bed at 2:59,
I mean, even the ones that are the overnight success that we see behind those scenes, they have worked years. It's just that we see just that one time where they actually became successful, but these people have been working just as hard as we have, and are.
Yeah, absolutely. And they continue to do so for years. I have a saying that it takes about 10 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah, I mean, hard work never ends. It will always be going on and on. So you have to make sure you do something that you love. It's your passion that will keep carrying, that driving you, because even with the nightclub, it was the passion that just kept us going. Sometimes we're like, we can't do this anymore. We're not making any money, but we love what we do. So let's just keep going, So just find what you love and keep at it. It will come back to you, just believe and stay positive.
Absolutely. And that's like that familiarity that Jessica was talking about. There's a saying that says, be so good that they can't ignore you.
Right.
But that comes with time and effort, because when you first start something, it's new, and you may not even really understand what in the world are you doing, but you're trying to pull the pieces together. You maybe have some guidance, you maybe don't. But you've got to do your research. But the most learning that you're going to do is through trial and error, that grit experience of actually being in the work and doing the work. And in that process, you become familiar with what works and what doesn't work. And what I want these ladies to recognize is that that's different for every single person.
Yeah, every situation is different. Some people, achieve certain things quicker and faster than others, and it doesn't mean that they're doing it better or vice versa. It's just different things takes different time. Everyone is different, so follow your path and your journey and focus on that rather than someone else's. Never compare your journey to anyone else's.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the keys to that, I believe, is being able to recognize when we need to make the adjustments, going through that process, but paying enough attention to what we're learning so that as we're going through the process, we're able to say, okay, I did this and it didn't work. Don't do that again. So we don't repeat the same mistakes. We'll still make mistakes, but they won't be repeats. And one of the things that you said, like when people are going through these processes, they will learn. And they have their own situations. Some progress faster than others. Some have more success initially. Some have more success later on. Some just don't have any success at all. But there's different factors that play into that: timing, location, association, relationships. All of those things come in as factors. So, I use Oprah Winfrey as an example. You could follow Oprah's blueprint. Go to all the schools that she went to, have the same jobs that she had, know the same people that she knew, and still not achieve the same level of success because she's Oprah and you're not. You may have a greater level of success if you come in at the right time, if you come in at the right place, and you do the right things based on the scenario. And so that's kind of what we have to give ourselves, I believe, grace in understanding the variations of that. So sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's no such thing as just not achieving anything. You will achieve it at some stage. So as long as you keep trying.
Absolutely. As long as we don't give up.
Yeah. It's like, even for me, before I found this, the nightclub, like management job and events and all that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I was just really broken at the time, with some personal issues in my life. So I was trying to rebuild myself. And honestly, I was just praying that like somehow I just find something that I would love to do and get paid for it. And it just kind of came into my life. And then with the pandemic, the club shut down. We haven't been open ever since. So I just decided I wanted to do a playlist. I wanted to work with new artists. I want to continue, like start a new brand, which is called Listed. I just got offered a talk show, which will go under the same brand. And we're going to be, talking with new artists and people in the entertainment industry and just hearing their stories. So you just have to keep going, because there is a saying that says, you keep looking, you'll find it. So keep looking for your path and you will find it.
Absolutely. Congratulations for all of that. Being
Thank you.
able to pivot is so critical for us. I think women do that better than anybody. Just
We
because
do.
we have to manage so many different things. We're always multitasking, but we learn to shift where necessary, where we can focus our energy and get the most out of it. And be the most beneficial. So absolutely. Congratulations for all of that, Kelly. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
sharing.
much.
You're welcome. So Jessica, I'd like to come back to you and just talk a little bit more about this empowerment. I understand that there's two words there. The first is the root word power, which Kelly identified earlier as kind of an energy, the movement of energy. But then we talk about empowerment, and understanding that empowerment is the transferring of power from one who has it to one who does not. And so, what is that process that these ladies need to be aware of in the empowerment process? How can they empower themselves, and how can they be empowered?
So, yes, part of the definition of empowerment is the process of getting stronger and more confident.
Okay.
The other part of the definition is the power or authority given to somebody to do something. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, like we talked about in the beginning, we wait for other people to give us authority. We wait for somebody else to tell us that we're good enough. We wait for somebody else to tell us that, we've succeeded. But what if you could do that? What if you woke up that thing inside of you that you were just like, take that power, give me that. I don't need to wait for somebody else to give it to me. And the idea of growing stronger and more confident, that is a process. That the root word of the word confidence is trust. And the idea of building trust within yourself is what is going to lead you to confidence. But in order to build trust, we have to step out of our comfort zone. We have to have courage. Mm-hmm. So those are a couple main components. But the biggest thing that I would say is practicing self-awareness. You spoke earlier about a journal, and I actually just published a journal because I think that it's so valuable for people to be able to have something in front of them, write it down, to be able to explore, who are you? Why do you want these things? What are your values? What are the things that are important to you, and why? All the things that Kelia was saying earlier, such powerful and important messages of believing in yourself and not falling victim to imposter syndrome. And I'm sitting here, I'm yes, but that's so hard. So hard. Because you see these people, I'm in some of these groups and oh, you want to know how to make 6 figures by tomorrow? DM me now. And I'm oh God. And listen, in the beginning, it's so easy to fall victim. Yes, I want all the information. Why is this not working? Right. And then we're consumed with this idea of failure. But the way I define failure is that you haven't failed until you've stopped trying. So we have to be able to seek empowerment, to know that we're growing more confident every day, even if we're not there yet. And being able to look in the mirror and face yourself. Being able to see somebody else doing better than you, and instead of being oh, I'm never going to get there, say oh, I can do that too.
Absolutely.
So what it is that they're doing, and use that as inspiration, motivation for you to kind of step into your purpose, to believe in yourself more, that, hey, you know what? If somebody else could do it, maybe I could do it too.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. If somebody else can do it, then we can do it. The illustration that comes to mind for me is the man who ran the 4-minute mile. His illustration, and it seems like decades before someone was able to break that barrier of running fast enough. They say, oh, it's impossible, you'll never do it, blah blah blah. Then it was done, and guess what? A whole bunch of other people did it right away because now the barrier has been broken. Yes. It's kind of like that energy now moves forward and everybody follows right along with it.
Yes, the mind is such a powerful weapon that if we learned how to use it, how to point it in the right direction, oh man, the things that we could achieve. And listen, at some points, no matter how many years you've spent on this earth so far, the idea of rewiring your brain or changing the format of your thinking process, listen, it's challenging, but it's possible. The idea that you can still create new neural pathways in your mind, that if you reprogram your thinking, if you can kind of like channel your thoughts as if they're a magnet, and use them to help you attract the things into your life that you really want. Like, it sounds kind of crazy. And listen, like, if you would have met me a couple of years ago, I'd be like, you're talking nonsense. Like, I don't need any of this mumbo jumbo. But it's true. It's really true. Like, listen, trust me. I've like had to do it. The things that like are your priorities, whether you realize it or not, like your subconscious thoughts, they're filtered in to your stream of consciousness. Mm-hmm. That if you tell yourself something is true, you will find evidence to support it.
Yeah, and we'll act in harmony with it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I successfully talked myself out of a lot of dreams that I had. It was the one thing that I was always successful at. But at what cost?
Yeah.
At what cost? We don't realize the power that exists within us right now. I say that there's a lit fire within each of us. The only difference between your fire and somebody else's is what you feed it. Mm-hmm. And we have to be mindful of the things that we're allowing to penetrate us. The statements, the things we say to ourselves, the things that we allow other people to say to us, the people we surround ourselves with, the atmosphere that we put ourselves in, social media, like, we're talking about what we're exposed to on social media. And like, there's some great stuff out there. Yeah. There's some great groups I'm a part of. I have great support and it's wonderful. But you sit there too long and you're scrolling. You're like, oh my God, she's so pretty. Oh my God, she's so successful. She's so talented.
Yeah.
Right.
And we start looking at other people's lives and making that comparison. You said something very key, that, it starts with what we're putting into ourselves. What are we taking and how are we thinking and how are we feeling? And something that I have been very conscious of recently is how I treat myself is how I teach myself to recognize what love looks like. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that again. How I treat myself is how I teach myself to recognize what love looks like.
Yes.
And so when I go past the mirror, I'll be like, oh, girl, you cute. And yesterday it's not the first time I've done it, but I went out and I bought myself a dozen roses. And I, took them and they're gorgeous. They're one of my favorite colors, yellow, of course. But they've got this nice little kind of peachy hue to them. And I put them in the water in the vase and I set them on the counter and I just look at them. And every time I see those flowers, for me, I love flowers. They're just refreshing and rejuvenating and they match my fingernails. So, so, I mean, it's little things like that. Have a little sparkle, that gives us that boost, that joy and emotion that we need, that internal uplifting, but it's doing those kinds of things. And I thought to myself, actually, a friend of mine sent me a message earlier because I talked about this in a motivational group previously. And they sent me a picture of another motivational speaker. And they says, oh, look, she's kind of on the same wavelength as you are. I says, yeah. I says, because we have to love ourselves first. That's how we teach other people how to love us. But that's also we teaching ourselves what love looks like. What should we accept or what should we reject from others? We talk a lot about red flags, but I also like to highlight the green flags, so if you have, someone, a loved one in your life, if you've got a mate or a partner, and you like to treat yourself to gifts, then they see that you're caring for yourself in a certain way, then they will recognize, she needs to be treated this way. And I need to respect her in that way. I can't talk to her this way and I can't, treat her that way and it be acceptable.
You set the precedent. That's right. I love that so much because the idea of self-love, again, I think a lot of people kind of like scoff at it, but the idea, like if you know how to love yourself, that's how you show other people how to love you. Mm-hmm. That's how you can welcome in the love that you deserve and want. Because I think a lot of women, myself included, I spent a lot of years not knowing how to love myself, that we maybe accept things that we shouldn't from other people. Yeah. The idea of self-love, I think, goes very hand in hand with boundaries. And, as you were talking, you reminded me of a quote from like Lisa Nichols. She says, you can't love from your cup. You have to love from your overflow.
Yes.
Cup with self-love. And whatever else comes out, that's where we can love others from, because there will be others that will come to take your love.
Mm-hmm.
And if you love from your cup, what are you left with?
Yeah. We'll be depleted.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And
but we got to find a way to fill ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Self-love is a big thing. Yeah, we have to be able to, at least have our cup full.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that I can love me and your love is extra. And I welcome that. I love that. Right? I love to have that love and I love to share my love.
Absolutely. And that's what it is. I think so often we get caught up in feeling like we've got to look for someone else to complete us, and feeling like we need someone else to love us in order to feel loved, in order to feel lovable, in order to feel valued. But we really have to become self-sufficient in that. So that's the emotional side of our self-sufficiency. When we're loving ourselves and caring for ourselves, then we increase our self-worth, and we got to remember to put ourselves first. We talk about all the time, or we hear so often that illustration about the mask on the airplane. I think every episode of this broadcast has this reference from me or a guest. But we talk about putting that mask on first because it's something that we need to continue to reiterate. It's so essential for us. Do we realize that it's like air? If you can't breathe, you won't succeed, you won't survive. And so we need to make sure that we're putting our mask on first, so then we're strong enough, we are sufficient enough, self-sufficient enough to then be able to, as you said, serve others from our overflow. And really be able to care for them.
Yeah, I feel like that what you said earlier is like that Cinderella mentality. Yeah. Grow up watching Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, waiting for the prince.
Yeah.
And now these little girls have like Elsa and, all these other like strong ass women. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Strong women out there that are showing them like, what kind of powers that they really possess,
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful the way it's kind of evolving, but I think we all just need that reminder, at any age.
Yeah, absolutely. And the encouragement, the consistent encouragement, and that's what this platform is about, making sure that we're receiving the encouragement that we need, because you are enough. You are enough. I want every woman watching this broadcast to know that you are enough. There's an affirmation that I've created, and I, say it every day to myself, and I encourage these women to say it to themselves as well. It is, I am enough. I have enough. I do enough. God is my provider. And in those 4 statements, we recognize our presence, our activities, and our feelings, our motivation, and our surroundings, our environment, recognizing that we do have enough. We have enough stuff. So we don't have to go and retail therapy. Because retail therapy may end up taking away our food budget when we're 90, and unable to work to earn that money back. And those are the kind of the perspectives that we really need to make sure that we're keeping in mind. 85% of women are not even thinking about their retirement. 85%. And that's a recent study from Worthy. 85%. And that 85% are the ones who are not thinking about retirement. The other 15% have thought about it. That doesn't mean that they've actually put a plan in place. So that's how critical it is for us. That female rescue fantasy, that Cinderella, that Sleeping Beauty, we're not going to be Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty at 75, y'all, really. No. So self-sufficiency is absolutely essential for us to make sure that at a time when we're unable to work, exchanging our time or our efforts for the income, that we have something in place so that we'll be able to continue to support ourselves. Self-sufficiency. What can we create and how can we develop that so that we're able to have a passive income, or to be able to manage our money to the point where our money starts to work for us. And that's where I think about what you're talking about, Kelly, in terms of the music industry. And I just want to acknowledge some in our audience. Hey, Kate Angela, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have a guest, Russell Pierce. Thank you so much. He says, we're fabuloso. We appreciate that. Thank you. But recognizing how we're able to use our talents in order to benefit ourselves. One of the ways that I personally have begun to do that is through my writing. Now, I've written books in the past, and unfortunately lost manuscripts. But I'm at the process now. I know that's so painful, but I've gotten over it, and I'm writing another book. So, in my next book, in the projects that I'm working on now, it is not just to have that residual income, but also to be able to share my experience, my unique experience, in a way that I know other women will be able to benefit. And that's where we get the residual, emotional return from our investments. Being able to put that out. But talking about the financial return, Kelly, I know in the music industry, we talk about royalties, right? And being able to create music and what other things can you maybe advise these women of, if they have those kinds of creative talents, even, if they do something similar to what you've done, how would they be able to establish themselves to be able to have that kind of residual income?
Well, I would say, don't just look at one side of the industry. The industry, like even myself, I just always thought it's just this and that. But then there's just so many other ways that you could be a part of the industry, Like, for example, myself, now that I haven't been able to manage the nightclub, I just thought, let me start a Spotify playlist and a music blog, which has grown so much in the last, year and a half since we've been on a lockdown. So it's just you have to just keep looking at different opportunities, think about the things that you're good at, and yeah, it's just amazing, like, that you can just look at different aspects of the industry. It's not just like one or two things. You can do so many other things. And even like for me myself, I always tell people, even if it takes you, if you can afford to give your time for free in the beginning, you'll build your brand. Your name is your brand. These days, your social media is your business card. Work on your social media, your websites and all those other online kind of platforms. Build your brand, build your name. And before you know it, people are going to come to you. Because when you're good at something, it will attract the right audience and the right people. So just, keep building and focusing, like it's such a big deal of all of this is to focus. Like so many times I have to tell my friends, sorry, I can't meet you this weekend, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. You have to just really focus, like stay focused on what you're doing, don't let anything distract you.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to have balance at the same time. I know this weekend, yesterday, Sunday, was the first time I had been out with my girls in a little while. I had told them, and they were used to me not showing up because I'm like, nope, I gotta make sure I get this, I gotta do this plan. I gotta make sure I'm doing, this hours. I gotta make sure I'm doing, working with this client, getting all this stuff together. And so they're used to that. And so when I showed up yesterday, they were like, oh my gosh, she's here. Being able to put in the work, we have to make sure that we are paying ourselves first.
Yeah.
I mean that both in the literal and the emotional sense. So we pay ourselves first financially by making sure that we're not doing all of our work and then sending out all of our money.
And a lot of people are more or less 9 to 5, or they don't really maybe look to do their own business, which is fine, whatever suits every single person. Everyone's different. But if you are someone that's looking to build your business, or you have a business, you really have to put your head down sometimes and just really focus. And you have to try and understand that not necessarily other people are not going to understand your hustle and your struggle, because they just maybe do their hours and then that's it, But when you're a business owner, the work never stops. Like sometimes I'm up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., just looking through emails and thinking of new ideas or just working on something. So it's like all around the clock kind of, thing. So
but just like you said, it's you do that because you enjoy it. You know, you're able to have that passion fueling you. You get the energy because you want to do it. If you find that, you're making yourself wake up, because they talk about the 5 a.m. club. I've heard people, and there's a book about it, right? And so people think that, oh, well, I need to set my alarm clock so I can get up at 5 a.m. every morning and make this productive. Well, if you're up at 5 a.m. and you've got toothpicks in your eyes, or you're sitting there like nodding off to sleep, you're not getting anything done anyway.
Right.
Back to bed.
And even with your passions and like the things that you love to do, there's gonna be this where you hate everything, you don't want to do that thing, you don't feel motivated, and that's fine. I always tell people, I give myself maximum 2 to 3 days of feeling sorry for myself if I am going through something. I would sleep all day, I'll order some junk food, I will just watch something on Amazon or Netflix. But once it gets to that second day, I'm like, okay, I need to get back to myself. I need to get my shit together,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's necessary.
Yeah, we have to stay focused. We have to allow ourselves that grace, because that is also caring for ourselves. Now, being aware, as you said, Jessica, does not mean that we will not run into challenges. Being aware means that we're conscious of when those challenges come up and how to manage them better, so that we're not overcome by our emotions, but we're able to manage our emotions. So we allow them their place. We allow, just like you said, Kelly, a time for that. And then we're able to put that away and get back to business to do what's necessary in order for us to care for ourselves. And that also requires some familiarity. Because some folks have been so overwhelmed and overrun by their emotions that they're literally just guided by emotion. They're not really making decisions, but they're following the whim. And so how, Jessica, would you recommend, if there is a woman who has been so, emotionally overwhelmed, that she finds herself in a place where it's challenging for her to now make a decision about being able to get over whatever the situation is, how can she work her way through that process to become more familiar with not putting her emotions, in such a primary place?
I would probably talk about like wanting to define those emotions. Like sometimes we can feel things, and then when we feel them other places, we go to the same response, the same coping skill, the same whatever. Like if I feel like uncomfortable, or if I feel scared, or I feel sad, and I feel sad over here and scared, I'm just going to have the same emotional reaction, even though the situations could be different. So I think we need to define what emotion it is and put words to it, and then be able to recognize like what that means. When I'm feeling really overwhelmed, like, okay, I'm overwhelmed, right? Like that's typically gonna like trigger a fight or flight. So we have to be willing to kind of like sit in it, in that discomfort, to get to know it. Like, okay, I'm feeling this way. What do I want to know about this? Like, I need to sit here for a second. I need to get comfortable with this uncomfortable feeling. So that when I do experience it again, it doesn't have to drive me right to my answer, right to my outlet. I can be stronger. I think stronger is the word I want to use in this moment, consumed with this emotion, to be able to kind of come up with a game plan. Okay, I'm feeling this type of thing, right? I can completely give into it and feel the emotion, which sometimes we do. But then, like we said before, like being able to have a point where you pull yourself out and say, like, okay, what can I do about this? I don't want this emotion to completely consume me. I don't want it to completely derail me. I had my feeling, I felt about it. Now I need to do about it. I think a lot of times the doing is where we fall short, because the emotion is so overwhelming that maybe I'm going to go to sleep, or maybe I'm going to sit and eat the junk food, and like that's going to make me feel better. It doesn't make it go away.
It doesn't. The sugar high is great, but the crash is horrible.
But when you wake up, like all that stuff is still there, and we can maybe forget about it a little bit easier the next day or a couple of days later. And that feels better. But what if you could grow around it? What if you grew bigger than the emotion? That the next time it didn't have to knock you down for 3 days. You might get tripped up. Like, listen, like we all will have a storm in our life. And like sometimes these storms will come and they will rock you. I had a storm just a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, right. But you know what? Like I got tripped up. I did, but I didn't get held down this time. I didn't get completely rocked.
Yeah.
Like I have in the past, So
That makes a big
knowing
difference.
the emotions, knowing how you need to deal with them. It's getting in touch with yourself. What are you feeling? Going through your five senses. All of the stuff. What do you
Mhm.
feel? What do you see? What do you hear? What's going on around you? What's going on inside of you?
Absolutely. Okay, so that's something that we can write down. What are those five senses that they should, or questions that they should ask themselves in order to get in touch with their senses when they find themselves dealing with a traumatic response?
The five senses is a great grounding technique, right? So it just kind of brings you back to the moment. So you go through them. What do you see? What's around you literally right now? What do you feel? What can you touch? Are your feet on the floor?
Mm-hmm.
What is actually happening right now, right
Mm-hmm.
here? Are you safe? Are
Mm-hmm.
you okay? Like there could be a whole chaos going on in the world around you right now, but where you are, in your room, in your seat, are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, becoming present and really regrounding ourselves, reconnecting to our space,
Mhm.
and that helps us to put things in perspective. That's excellent. So
And I
what do we
see.
see? What do
Can
we
I just
see?
add to that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just gonna go
Yeah, yeah.
down the list real quick. What do we see? What do we hear? What do we smell? What are we touching? And if you have to eat something, what are you tasting? No, well, sometimes, and that's very important for us. What do you taste? Because sometimes when we have an emotional response, we will get a bitterness in our mouth. And there's an indication for that. I have to find that indication. I'm going to look that up. Because there is, our bodies are amazing how we get these alerts, and these messages about what to pay attention to. It's just, again, like you said, being aware and being conscious of what the signals are that we can pay attention to. So I will put in the comments those five questions so that we'll know what to look for. And what would you want to add to that, Kelly, please?
Yeah, so I wanted to agree, what Jessica said, but I also want to say, it's okay. We're not robots. We deserve, like, sometimes we're gonna go through pain, and it's okay to feel hurt, to feel depressed. I feel like people these days are really trying to avoid pain or avoid getting hurt or avoid failing. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's a must for you to get through the next stage, for you to experience and live through those, bad emotions. They're not necessarily bad. You just have to really ground yourself, as Jessica said, check in with yourself, but don't be afraid of those emotions. A lot of people are really just like, I never want to get hurt, or I never want to feel pain, or I never want to fail. But they don't realize that across that bridge, there's something so much bigger and better. So sometimes you need to embrace it, embrace the pain that you feel, and just really just look after yourself.
Yeah,
And then one
that's
last thing I wanted to say is as well about self-love. You guys were just talking about, there's a saying that I always follow, which is other people can only love you as much as you love you. So I feel like people should always remember that, if you don't really love yourself, or you don't really feel good enough for yourself, how do you expect other people to love you? So, self-love is really important for me, anyway. So
Absolutely. And so when we're putting all of that together, we have to be conscious of what we're doing, and honestly, in feeling that pain. I guess one of the things that I, really sat and kind of meditated about was, well, I feel this pain because I've allowed myself to be emotionally vulnerable. But that same vulnerability allows you to feel the most immense joy as well. So understand that if you cut off your sensors for pain, you will also cut off your sensors for joy. And that's where that balance comes into play. We do make ourselves vulnerable, but feeling those emotions, recognizing that that's where the balance comes in for us, and being able to understand how to manage those emotions. Not that we want to cut them off completely, but knowing how to cope. So taking those steps, asking those questions, reviewing our mindset, and being able to go through this process. And so that kind of brings me back around, Jessica, to your journal, because I get excited about journals. I just bought a new journal yesterday. I've got a million of them, but I bought another one. I was like, I don't care. This one has different stuff in it. I like it. I'm starting fresh today.
Yeah, I love it. Always good for a fresh start.
Absolutely. And it does. This journal has all the stuff I was like imagining. I can check off my water count for the day. I can write down, what I've eaten. I can, I do a check-in in the morning and a check-in in the evening on my emotions and all. I'm like, oh, I like this journal. So, I couldn't leave it in the store. But that leads to the fact that you created a journal as well. And so tell us a little bit more about your journal.
Well, I have it here. Yeah. So it's called Breakthrough.
Okay.
I put in a bunch of activities that I really liked for myself and that I use a lot with my clients because, this idea of getting to know yourself is very challenging. That sometimes when we sit and we just think, it's even more difficult because the thoughts, they just kind of swirl, right? And then, the anxiety kind of creeps in and starts like making you second guess everything that you've ever done. It's like, oh, well, did you think about this terrible thing that you did in the past? Or like this crazy thing that you did yesterday? Or like how many things we're going to start replaying, and then we get off track and it just gets overwhelming and we kind of hit that fight or flight and we're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of activities in here to kind of help practice with self-awareness. Okay. There's some motivational quotes. And it's basically about applying everything that we talked about today to your life. Yeah. It's great to sit and like listen to people speak and listen to people conversate about, where we've been or what we've done or what we know. Mm-hmm. To go out and do it yourself is a whole nother animal. So journals are a great way to be able to have a support while you're doing it. And I have in here like some long-term goals. I have ideas on my tips on how to set goals. Mm-hmm. So you'll have like the key aspects of your life. Like there's social goals, fitness and health goals, career goals, emotional goals, relationship goals. And then I have my daily kind of plans, so there's like the daily check-ins, it goes for today, your goals, how you'll achieve them. And then it kind of has like an end of the day check-in. How did you do today? What do you want to do different tomorrow? Yeah. And then just some kind of thought pages. But I just like the idea of like guidance, because we can read books and I think that they're great. There's so many wonderful self-help books out there. Mm-hmm. But I think people sometimes they get all this great stuff and they're like, but how do I do that? Like, how does that apply to me?
Exactly. And so thank you for sharing that, because that is exactly what we're about here on Mindful Money Moment. It's not just what to do, but how to do it. So having the guidance and being self-sufficient means taking care of ourselves, guiding ourselves even through that process, teaching us that it's okay to be independent. It's okay that we don't need someone else's permission, as you stated early on, in order to be successful or to make a choice for ourselves, that we can make those choices and stand strong. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Of course, those from our audience will be able to reach out to you through Instagram at the Jess Moloney, and they'll be able to go on your Instagram, get that website where they'll be able to order that journal and then get on in their process to self-sufficiency, on their steps to self-sufficiency by being able to implement that. It's not just about what to do, but how to do it. We got to take action here, ladies. We have to take action. It is about taking those steps 1, 2, 3, and then, coming back for 4, 5, and 6. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Jess, for sharing that with us.
Sure. Yeah. And if anybody does get it, I was offering a free coaching call with it. So if you go onto my Instagram, you can find me there.
Absolutely. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. And so Kelly, there's a question that we've had, and I kind of clicked on it earlier, but Russell Price asked us about the Kelly Project. So what's going on with the Kelly Project?
Oh, well, thank you, Russell, for, asking that question. I guess he's one of my fans. So, hi. But so the Kelia Project is going to be a new talk show, which I explained earlier. We have a brand called Listed, where we kind of give a platform to new and upcoming artists and music industry professionals like DJs and producers and anyone else who's in the industry. Really just a platform to talk about their story and how they get there and, what inspires them and their new projects. So especially in these times where artists can't really tour, they can't, everyone knows in the industry, that's where they make the most of their money. Yeah. So, to be able to still have a platform where you can talk about your projects, your music, your stories, it's really important. So this is going to be a talk show where we're going to mix it up with entertainment and celebrity news, but also have guests on every week where they'll be able to talk about what they do and stuff. So
Awesome.
Really excited. It should be launching within next few weeks. So
That's fabulous.
and I would love to have one of you on as well, at some stage to
Absolutely.
see, for you to tell your stories, because that was kind of my vision for the show, to just have real people, real stories, I just think it's so interesting. Everyone has a story, and I feel like the world deserves to hear all of our stories. Like, we're all really special no matter what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. That is the Kelia Project, and you can get more information about the Kelia Project by connecting with Kelia on her Instagram, which is on the screen. It's KELLII_K, and you'll be able to find more information again about the Kelia Project and maybe how you can be a guest on her show.
Yes.
That would be fabulous. For those of us who, are reaching out for the creativity and have that level of creativity, I find that community is where we're able to really build our confidence and our strength. Because we learn from the lessons of others, gaining wisdom, not just knowledge. We can study and research and get all the knowledge we want, but that wisdom from experience just takes us to a whole nother level. And then being able to share, builds a whole nother level of confidence for us as well. So I encourage every woman to take advantage of that. Connect with these ladies, please, and keep in touch with them so that you're able to build yourself up in your business, in your creativity, in your career, however it may be. And so thank you again, everyone, for joining us for another Mindful Money Moment. The time flies when you're having fun. So thank you, ladies, for being here with us, and they'll have more information for being able to connect with you all. I'll include that under the description for this program today. And so I thank you all for joining me today. Again, I'm Kivette Minor-Kane, your financial liberation expert here at More Life LLC. Feel free to go to our website at moremorelife.com so that you're able to get more information about our about the workshops and the products and services that I have available for you there, and so that you're able to truly take advantage and to benefit yourself. I do have my next workshop coming up on June 19th. That's a Saturday. It's going to be the Good Retire workshop. I look forward to any of you ladies who sign up and want to learn more about how to get out of debt and retire tax-free. So this is another Mindful Money Moment. I'm so grateful for you joining us, and I hope that you all will have an amazing day. Take care.